Hello everyone, I'm Hanifa, and in this video I would like to talk about one of the books that I read on these past few months, that is Writing Islam, Decolonialism, Justice and Contemporary Muslim Literature, which I think this book brings such as delightful issues and topics to be discussed. So for you guys who are looking for an interesting reading, please keep on watching. Okay, so this book was just actually released this year 2024 by the Ohio State University Press, and the author itself is one of my lecturers in my English literature major, that is Hasnul Djohar, which for this book she aimed to present the social and gender justice challenge faced by Muslim women, especially for those who are living as minorities in wealthy countries. This book consists of 10 sections, which begin with an introduction and end with an conclusion, and there are 8 parts that discuss many different literary texts with various genres that focus on popular authors, covering a range of literary forms such as novels like Once in a Promised Land 2008 by Leila Halabi, poetry such as Harga Poems 2016 by Moja Kaf, memoir like Language of Baklava 2005 by Dana Abu Jaber, and short stories such as Him, Me, Muhammad Ali 2006 by Randa Jarar. I have 5 points that I highlight from this book. The first one, I noticed that in her book, in all chapters, Miss Hasnul chose to use lowercase letters for European and American colonial powers such as Spain and United States, while capitalizing terms such as Arab and African. Which I think by using lowercase letters for colonial powers, Miss Hasnul may be deliberately undermining their historical authority and the legitimacy of their colonial actions. This aligns with the post-colonial critique that seeks to challenge the narrative construct by these powers, which have historically marginalized and dehumanized colonized people. Meanwhile, capitalizing Arab or African serves to affirm the identity and cultural significance of this group. The distinction emphasizes their agency and existence beyond the colonial narrative, countering the historical tendency to view them solely through the lens of colonialism. The second one, I agree with Ms. Hasnul's use of the term after the invasion of Iraq, which she used in her book as historical marker to describe the dominant US narrative of the 9/11 attacks, because by making the invasion of Iraq as a historical marker, we can focus uh, uh, you can focus attention on what the US did after 9/11, not just seeing them as a victims, but also as the ones who took action that caused a lot of damage. As we know, the invasion of Iraq was a direct result of the US response to 9/11, where America used the excuse of 9/11 to launch the invasion. But instead of solving the problems, this invasion worsened the world situation. If we only focus on 9/11, we only see America as a victim, whereas the invasion of Iraq caused millions of casualties in Iraq. So, by changing this term, Ms. Hasnul reminds us of how bad America actions are, and that are many people in the world who also suffer from US actions, and invite us to think more critically. Is all this really because of 9/11, or is there any other agenda such as political and economic interest? And the third one, in the chapter Decolonializing Muslim cultures and world cultures, Ms. Hassel said that the dominant concept of identity represented by the metaphor of melting pot can eliminate or disguise the diversity and unique differences of individual cultures. In this case, Ms. Hasnul agree with Diana Abu Jaber concept of the Maglobe pot, which is more reflective of diversity and flexibility, where identity doesn't have to be homogeneous or the same. I agree with this statement because, in my opinion, identity is flexible, diverse, and not fixed on one uniform definition. Identity is something dynamic, which is changing and not fixed, and it should be not be limited by one dominant view, but must be able to develop according to conditions and context. For example, in everyday life, my friends who come from certain ethnic groups such as Javanese or Sundanese might speak Javanese or Sundanese at home with their families, but use Indonesian in the general environment and use English on campus or on social media. This shows that identity can change and develop according to the context, so we are able to move between two identities without having to completely abandon one of them. The fourth point that I highlight that in this chapter, Ms. Hasnul argued that Abu Jaber memoir shows and critiques how the melting pot concept mainly benefits those who already fit into the dominant culture, which is European in this case. This means that while people from different backgrounds can grow, they must adopting Western values. I agree with this criticism, as the melting pot idea is often used by the US to describe how society blends various cultures into one. However, this blending mostly benefits the dominant group, like Europeans, and forces different cultures to change to fit European or Western standards. For example, in Hollywood, which they use the concept of melting pots by taking cultural elements from various traditions but then changing them into the fit image and values that are more acceptable to Western audiences. An example is the movie of Aladdin, which is inspired by the Middle Eastern folktale 1001 Nights. However, the culture is not consistent and is a mixture of Middle Eastern, South Asian, and Western culture. Antagonist characters such as Jafar are portrayed as evil and cunning with a darker and fleshier appearance, while the main characters like Aladdin and Jasmine have an appearance that is more tailored to Western beauty standards. The music in the movie also reflects a strong Western influence. Songs like A Whole New World and A Friend Like Me have the feel of typical Broadway musicals, which are more tuned with a Western taste than traditional music from the Middle East or Arabia. And the last one point that I highlight is in the chapter Decolonializing Collective Surveillance and the FBI. Ms. Hasnul highlights how after 9/11 attacks, the FBI focused more on domestic issues related to Muslims, such as car accident experienced by Jassim character in the novel Once in the Promised Land, when they should be keeping an eye on larger international issues such as the U.S. invasion of Iraq or U.S. support for the Israeli occupation of Palestine. I strongly agree with this statement, as it is an illustration of racial and religious profiling where Muslims are systematically treated as more suspect group even though they are not involved in acts of terrorism. The FBI, which has a mandate to maintain national security, has instead turned their attention to surveillance of certain groups based on stereotypes rather than legitimate evidence. The FBI's involvement in investigation of Jassim car accident shows how this power is overused, as they monitor and investigate matters that should be outside the scope of their duties. In this context, surveillance is no longer about security or the law, but about suspecting and controlling individuals based on their identity. Okay, so overall, this book is such as interesting reading because it offers discussions and topics and issues that are relevant and one of the urgencies of today, which is to open thoughts and views on global problems where Muslim voices are not always heard when they are in places that make them a minority. The presence of this book will raise readers' awareness of this issue and create a new generation that can be vocal about these global problems. So that's my brief review of the book of Rewriting Islam, Decolonialism, Justice, and Contemporary Muslim Literature by Hasnul Insani Djohar. I hope my review has sparked your interest. Thank you for watching.